So you know that a lot of people there was almost an exhaustion with the degree of this discussion. And I can imagine quite a few people sitting in parishes saying, oh, do we have to have a public conversation about this? I've had enough.
Sure. Well, I understand that. What we understand is that in relation to matters of abuse, including family and domestic violence, it's once it's opened up, it's once the conversation is engaged in by the community that we start to make a change. But what we know even more in child abuse is the children that were abused didn't even understand whether what was happening to them was abuse. They hadn't the words, they didn't have the concepts. For many in the most conservative faith-based organisations, they had no conception about what was happening to them because they were denied normal and proper access to sex education and training. When they raised these matters with their families or other people, they were in total denial. And even today in some of the most conservative faiths around Australia, some of the closed religions and some of the more ethnically based religions, that abuse is being treated the same way. That is, you go home and you tell the family if you've got the words, and the family says to you, don't say anything to anybody else. This will bring shame on the family. It will bring shame on the church. It will bring shame on the community. And by the way, he couldn't possibly do it because he's a great man. Now that's exactly what happened to the Irish Catholics of 30 or 40 years ago. What's changed in the Catholic Church more generally is we're starting to have the conversation. In these other institutions, that conversation has not yet started. And so part of the Royal Commission's work was we ran a number of multicultural forums. And the reason was simply to start the conversation. So
it's sort of deep-seated conversations about sex, isn't it, really?
It is. And recently I was talking to independent schools about this. And I said to them that the highest risks in their schools are some of the most deeply conservative, faith-based schools. Because unless you have the conversation about sex, unless you have the conversation about abuse more generally, unless you start that conversation with parents and children, the only person that suffers from that is the child. In the past we said, don't tell anybody because you're going to hurt the family, the church, the community. But you have to suffer. We said you, of all the people, you've got to hold it back, not tell anybody. Go through your whole life pretending it never happened. Not the adults, not the institutions. We cannot let that happen again.